I probably shouldn't get a yacht. Hello, welcome to Sound and Fury Book Reviews, Proust Edition. This is Book 2, Part 6. So page 605 to the end of the volume. So I have reached the end of Within a Budding Grove. Look how beat up my copy is. I've written all over it. I have notes at the back. So I went through the remaining books in the series, and I think I'm going to finish the entire thing by July 16th. Like, that's that's kind of a whiles away here, but whatever. It'll be fun. It'll be a nice birthday present to me because my birthday's in July. So how is the last 100 pages of this book? As usual, not too much happens. Nothing of note, on the political landscape or, sort of wars happening, things like that. Marcel has a very boring life, to be honest. I mean, I wouldn't mind his life, just being rich and sitting around a hotel at the lake or at the ocean for like months on end, but it's not like he's off on some escapades. I guess that's what's so compelling about the novels. Marcel has such a normal, albeit privileged life that's easy to relate to his issues. I think he's actually more relevant today when a lot of people live lives of comfort. I'm talking, about first world countries than, during the World Wars or during the Depression, things like that. So I think there might be a Proust resurgence because of the fact that the things that he worries about are things that we have time to worry about now, as opposed to, but who knows? It is COVID-19. Anyway, so what does happen in the rest of this book? He meets Albertine and gives a rundown of the other girls in her group, Giselle, Rosamond, Andre. He falls for all of them at some point, but Albertine ends up being his preference. I liked her too. She's plucky. She doesn't care what people think. He, Elstier, and Albertine discuss fashion. Yawn fest. Andre dissects Giselle's philosophy exam, which I considered completely unnecessary and didn't really understand what the point was. I mean, could have cut that out, Marcel. He starts hanging out more with the group. They play some weird game where Marcel tries to orchestrate holding Albertine's hand, but then she gets annoyed with him for being terrible at the game, which I thought was very funny. Like, what an idiot. Albertine asks him to come to hang out with him when she spends the night in the hotel, probably because he's her friend, and she's probably lonely there. She's not used to that kind of thing. He thinks it's like a Netflix and chill kind of situation, and he tries to kiss her, and she's like, don't kiss me, I'm going to ring this bell, and call the butler in, and he's like, oh yeah, she's just fooling around, and so he tried to kiss her, and then she rings the bell, and I'm like, yeah, Marcel, consent, man, like, jeez. Anyway, Marcel has problems, I think, with with thinking that people want things that he wants and when they don't. In the end, though, Marcel, he changes his mind about Balbec. It's still kind of like cruddy to him in a way, in that it's like antiquated and a little dull without the roaring sea that he really wanted. Oh, you think so too? He finds that it contains something vastly valuable, which was, his friendship he made with these girls and, the way that he kind of grew up a bit and, how many times he got plastered at the restaurant. Always a fun time. There's these consistent metaphors to the sea throughout this section, and I think it has to do with, talking about how people change on the surface, but they're still the same underneath. Like, the waves come, the sea appears to change, but in the end it's still the sea, it's still the same. So I think that was kind of his central theme, I think, is the fact that he is changing, he's growing up, he's learning things, but he's still the same guy under it all, the same kind of awkward, kind of weirdo that he is. There were some other moments I liked in this section. He talks about doing stupid things in our youth, making mistakes, but knowing that making these mistakes is part of growing up, of gaining wisdom. So you wouldn't be the people that you are without the missteps or faux pas that you did in the past. Just there's a difference between, book smarts and street smarts, He says, we do not receive wisdom, we must discover it for ourselves, after a journey through the wilderness which no one else can make for us, which no one can spare us, for our wisdom is the point of view from which we come at last to regard the world. So basically, to understand our place in the world, we have to make mistakes. We have to be stupid at the start of our life to understand. I mean, then again, I know some older people that are quite stupid, but not naming names. Shortly following that, Marcel enters into a description of what I think is what naysayers of Proust probably kind of make fun of or latch onto when they talk about it. He does this like long description of everyday items. Like he talks about little knives and little tablecloths and napkins and things. He basically performs a still life painting, but in written form. I thought it was all right. I mean, I'm not super into tablecloths, but I appreciate the depth and detail that he can do. I don't think I could describe anything that well. So, you know, props to you, Mr. Proust. He talks about the two different forms of culture that are emerging, you know, new money versus aristocracy, how the richest of people can be up on the new social trends and stuff, but still won't be looked at as cultured by the aristocrats. You know, you could own like 1 million yachts and you still wouldn't be as cool as if you know, didn't have like a lady in the family who is related somehow to the royal family, or however they do it in France. He talks about Albertine's Diabolo, which is that thing you balance on a string using 2 sticks. He talks about how it has fallen into disuse now, that when they come upon the picture of a girl playing with one, the commentators of the future generations will solemnly discuss, what is she holding? True. I mean, I've heard of one of these before, but I had to Google it to remember what exactly it was. I'm like, I know what this is, like some kind of a yo-yo, and I was right, it's that thing. I'm sure my 3-year-old would have absolutely no idea. Then again, she doesn't know what a VHS is. She doesn't even know what a CD is. Like, she knows how to turn on the TV and turn on Netflix, but I'd be like, what's this machine? And she'd be like, I don't know, a robot. He talks for a while about what the girls look like. He talks about this, I think, a little ad nauseum. At one point, he discusses how our faces set into their final forms after adolescence. He provides some examples, but they're kind of sexist because he talks about like women being, you know, set up as wifehood and motherhood and stuff. He doesn't mention, you know, career women, what their faces turn into. He also doesn't talk about whether men have this setting of facial expression or features. I mean, Marcel, though, is a ladies' man in the sense that he is very, very much obsessed with ladies. For now, we'll see what happens. And then there's this nice quote that I liked. Whereas adolescence precedes this complete solidification, and hence we feel, in the company of young girls, the refreshing sense that is afforded us by the spectacle of forms undergoing an incessant process of change, a palsy of unstable forces which recalls the perpetual recreation of the primordial elements of nature, which we contemplate when we stand before the sea. See, there we go. Sea, you know, sea references again. So then I've got a couple quotes to end my the book here. So her friend had extraordinarily bright eyes, like a glimpse through an open door in a dark house of a room into which the sun is shining, with a greenish reflection from the glittering sea. I thought that was a rather beautiful way to describe someone's eyes. And I'll end with the most poignant and important quote from the entire book. How I should love to be rich and have a yacht. Yes, true that. Albertine, I agree with you. It would be nice to be rich and have a yacht. I have a boating license. I don't have a boat. We used to have a boat. It was not a yacht. It was a lot of fun though. I'm what my husband calls a hull cracker, in that he likes, you know, his favorite thing, he and his dad, they stand at the front of the boat and they go down the Narrows and these lakes. So we go to these lakes a lot of the time called the Muskokas, collection of kind of dark water lakes. I guess the southernmost point of Northern Ontario. And they like to go through what they call the Narrows, where they like to go on the boat and they like slowly meander. They look at everyone's overpriced cottages, and I'm just like, oh, so boring. So then when it's my turn to drive the boat, I take us out into the open and I just, my husband calls it hull cracking. I think you can understand why. We were on Georgian Bay one time, which is a notoriously rough lake. And so we were up in this place called Tobermory, which is a beautiful little town. So at one point in the lake, you're protected by this kind of cove, but we wanted to see this place called Flower Pot Island, which is these really neat looking rocks, and so people go over there and stuff, and so we were like, okay, we'll go around the island to come back, and we got out there, and just like, you basically like cross this invisible line of kind of like a tree line, you cross that, and all of a sudden you're in the big open, and it's just like, bam, bam! I was having a blast. My husband thought we were going to die. Not like he's cowardly or anything, but he understands. I mean, I can be a bit of an adrenaline junkie when it comes to that kind of thing. I'm going to take the rest of this week, maybe the start of next week, off to read a couple of the books that I got for Christmas. And then I'm going to jump into book 3, The Gramante's Way. I'm probably not pronouncing it right. I apologize. I'm Canadian and I can't speak French. It's bad. So the next video will probably come out January 8th or 9th. So thanks for watching. I hope you liked my series on Proust, and look forward to some more.